Welcome to TradeTheMBA.com. This is Jones Reports for the 20th of May. Not a surprise here. We're moving lower slightly in the pre-market, but everything was suggesting that we really weren't going to have it. And this is a nightmare for the gloom and doomers who are projecting inflation to go through the roof. The University of Michigan, where they were constantly negative versus Republicans and Democrats. Democrats thought that inflation was going to be skyrocketing. Not so for Republicans, so it skewed the data to where it was always saying that confidence was low, and yet we're not seeing that with the numbers. So big divergence there. And you can see we're already getting on a DOC down here, inversion. So spider, as I call it, and that should be positive on that crossover. So we should get continuation of the move. And this is all coming off of that rising gold on the shakeout that we saw from here. So as long as we continue to get improved histogram readings, everything's good. Nothing happening on the extreme histogram. So it's all pretty benign from that standpoint and looking solid. 8 reading here for NBI White, not much, even more so relevant on the NASDAQ, which we knew was the leader of this. Shorts at 4 from an NBI reading. So they're not really doing much of anything, and that's why the NASDAQ is pushing at that 100% level. Still trying to get back towards the highs, but given what everyone expected, there's a big divergence from the narrative. And you can see here right where they met, cyan fading, green popping, and it's when you get those kind of interactions and reversions, those usually have the strongest strength to them. And the wider that gap is, the stronger the move. That's just how that works. And from a treasury standpoint, yield continuing to be a pain. And, the Fed, of course, isn't going to be doing anything about any of this. And that's fine. It really comes down to oil. And it's holding at this particular stage is not really a benefit. The drill, baby drill, is not coming to fruition yet. And you still have that backlog in the courts. And they said it was going to take a long time to undo some of the roadblocks that were set in place. And they've worked very well. Even from the court challenges and everything, it's just delayed everything, and it's just all pushed it towards the later part of the year as opposed to where it could have been by in the next couple of months. But it's not going to happen that way. And same thing we were talking about with the investments. Like, it's all great and everything, but it's going to take a while. And in the interim, you're going to have the steel and all these things to build these new infrastructure for all these wonderful investments. And you got to get it somewhere, so they need to get a China deal because we're sure to get the steel and the components that you need for these things. So, that's a separate issue. The fact the euro is holding on within this is kind of funny. That's okay. It is what it is. And, there's a big thought that, again, moving into gold because you're going to see it this month. You're going to see it, that inflation skyrocket. That's guaranteed from the narrative standpoint. So that's where the money's going now. You follow it, and you buy the rumor, and you sell the news. And hopefully you sell it before the news so that you get the best value out of it. And of course, Bitcoin also popping up to near its highs as well. So it's mimicking the NASDAQ pretty clearly, and it's been trending that way for quite a while. And even the same thing here with ETH finally catching up, still relatively behind relative to the highs here compared to Bitcoin. But as we talked about, that's the new push tokenization of everything. So from that intraday, we saw the dip come down and Magenta took over. And once Magenta took over and you had white leading, now that's that forced short cover. It's so beautiful when that works out. And it just went all the way through, held up. And even right now, even with the weakness that we're seeing on the reset here under the 30, you don't have a strong push from a short standpoint, so it's relatively modest at this particular stage. We're starting to get rising gold, so you would need to see that shakeout turn up here intraday early on, and that would signal push back to the plus side of everything. And should get it in gear, and this is what it looked like intraday. There wasn't a whole lot to do once it started. It was all done before the open, and then you just had one little brief move towards the middle, and they filled that one back in, and that was the extent of where things were. And then they took the aftermarket to ease things a bit, and I think some of them would like to probably see a little bit lower open just to kill options given that, but I don't know if they'll be that lucky because it looks like it may move to the plus side before the market opens. So we'll see in just a little while. As always, though, anything relevant, I'll put it on our team chat. Have a good one. Trade well.